Hi, in this video I'm going to explain my process on the way I created these brushes using natural materials, in this instance hay. You're going to need some sticks, some hay and some cardboard, some sellotape and some string. Before we start, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see some more mad videos of me doing mad stuff with art. So we're going to grab a stick and some hay, and take the stick and put it in the middle of the bunch of hay and just gently try to shape a brush from the hay, pulling all the hay down so that you've got somewhere to trap when we start using the string. The piece of string we're going to put around the brush, leaving ourselves a bit to tie off, and I'm going to wind it round about 3 or 4 times and bring it down the length of the bit of string we're going to tie it to. Sounds complicated, but it's quite easy. We're going to start shaping the brush now, some scraggly bits that you can see that I don't particularly want, so I'm going to cut those bits of hay off. They're the bits that haven't got trapped back into the brush. Once I've done that, I'll give it a little bit more of a pull to see if there's any more bits of hay that I don't want. So those bits at the top now which didn't get trapped by the string, just going to chop them off. Moving on to doing the final knot now, so I'm just going to cut myself a decent length of piece of string that I know I can tie a knot with, turn the brush round and tie it to the first bit of string that's hanging about. Just give it a nice pull, make a nice tight knot, and then just to doubly secure it, I'm going to turn the brush round and tie my second knot into the bottom of the brush. And that's it, my first brush complete. For my second brush, I'm going to use a more rigid hay. I think this brush will be slightly more pen-like as opposed to it being a brush. If you're looking for hay, why not ask some of your rabbit-owning friends if they can spare you some? And if they can't, pick some grass out of the garden and trap it between some paper in a book and dry it out, and maybe try using that. I might try that myself. Other things you could probably try to use, some fur from your animals. If you've got pet rabbits, try using some fur from that. I might give that a try, using some hay as well, to see if that helps to make the brush to work better. So my second brush is using exactly the same technique, twine, to hold all the stuff together, and that one is now complete. So we're going to try and do my final brush. We're trying to mimic a flat brush now. So I've taken a piece of cardboard that's sort of flat shaped. I've trapped some hay into the cardboard, very similar to all the brushes that I've made so far. Just trying to make sure the hay is all a certain length. I'm going to chop it first across the top, so I've got a nice even flat brush. And then, because the hay's not quite going to the edge of the brush, I'm just going to trim the cardboard up now, so that it makes a better brush for use when you're doing whatever you're going to do with the brush. I'm not going to use string this time. This time I'm going to use some masking tape, and I'm just going to put some masking tape around this brush. I'm just going to tie it around a couple of times with some masking tape, and then do that 3 times up the length of the brush. Just wondering what you might use instead of hay. You could use some dried grass from the garden, some leaves, maybe some string or animal fur, anything you find lying around. Maybe even some sheep's wool. Perhaps you could find some of that hanging around. We could try that, see if that makes a good brush. But there we go. This is our third brush finished now. So let's test the brushes. This is my big flat brush that I made, just using some cobalt blue watercolour, fairly generous amount of water in the wash, and I'm just pulling the paint down on the paper, and as you can see, it's leaving some wonderful marks in the, well, I think it will be a sky. I think let's call this a sky. I'm just pulling the paint down the paper very much like you would with a normal brush, but as you can see, it's not spreading as well. But I still think it's making quite a nice mark on the page, which is lovely. using the big round brush that I created now, and this is making some wonderful grass marks, which you'd expect as it's hay. Lovely broken washes there, just darkening the green a little bit there to give a bit of background to the image. Stirring it like a Christmas pudding as well, which of course you probably shouldn't be doing. The rigid brush is acting like I thought, like a pen more than a brush, but it is spreading paint. It might be better for a gouache kind of painting rather than watercolour, but the paint's still going on, and I managed to put some distant hills in there, or distant something. We'll see what it is in a bit. Going back in with a flat brush now just to give a bit more distant hill, and that I love those marks going up into the white cloud on the painting, which is nice. Again, the brush is working really well, spreading paint across the paper like you would with a normal brush, but leaving some very interesting marks where the hairs of the hay are just sort of straggling out across the paper, which again I like quite a bit. A little bit of green into the sort of wet wash there to give a bit of a feeling of a distant hedge, and using the round brush this time to make those marks, and they're really marks. It's not really a brush stroke as such. This has been my favourite bit that I've been waiting to do. This is a tree using this brush, which has made some wonderful kind of marks there, and the flat brush there just to give a bit of a trunk to the tree, just mixing wet into wet that paint so that it mixes. It's making some wonderful marks that I wish would stay. I'm going to do some thicker paint. One more tree then, and I think we're done with this sort of part of the image using the brushes. So I've tried to make some sense of this image now. I've put a fence in, a tree trunk for a foreground tree, and I've left the background tree sort of very plain, and I felt that it needed a character, so I've put a very loose sort of looking man into the image, and he looked a little bit lonely, so I think we'll give him a little bit of a dog to keep him company on his country walk through this sort of watercolour hay picture. So there we go, a little dog there just to keep him company. I do like playing with ink. This is just a stick I'm using. It's a sharpened stick. It's another one of my made objects. I don't use normal pens. I just use a stick, and it makes some wonderful marks as you just sort of drag it across the paper, which I'm doing there for the field. So in conclusion, and I think the brushes actually worked really well. The rigid one was more pen-like, as I predicted, but gave quite a nice uneven line, which I like. Made a round brush, which I've tidied up, and has become a bit loose again, but I can see that working for tree shapes in the future, so I might keep that brush and use it. And my big sort of flat brush, that was interesting to use. Again, it's got a bit more ragged. I might cut that off. I could shape it a bit differently. So yeah, I enjoyed using this and making marks with those brushes. If you've got any questions, or you want to know anything else, or you want to share your work that you've done with made products, made brushes from natural materials, leave your comments below, and I will answer them as they come up. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you're feeling daring and want to see more videos like this.